Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Q&A show here on All for United. I am your host, Temi, aka Temi Talks United. Everyone make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and drop your questions for us right away. Every question that you do have, make sure to put Q&A in front of it so I can get to it as fast as possible and answer all of the questions we have going on for this next 30 to 45 minutes. You feel me? It's going to be a lot of fun. So many things to talk about. I'm going to ask the guys a couple questions to start the show. We have Mark with me, by the way. We have James and we have Hama. All great Manchester United fans, great opinions. You know what I'm saying? They know what they're talking about. I wouldn't have asked them to be on the show if they didn't. You know what I'm saying? So everyone make sure to show some love to those guys as well. Follow their Twitter pages. You know what I'm saying? We have a lot of people live with us right now. So everyone make sure to hit that like button. We want to get to 25 likes at least on this stream while we're live. You know what I'm saying? What a great, I finished up watching the PSG versus Bayern game. Absolutely just class football. We're going to talk about some players potentially that were playing in that game. Later on in the show, I'll ask a question. But I'm going to start with an interesting question surrounding Harry Kane. We played against him this past weekend. Obviously, we pretty much beat up Tottenham, for lack of a better term. It wasn't really competitive after that second half. And I'm just looking at Kane. He looks quite a dejected figure, for lack of a better term. And to me, I can't see how he stays at Spurs after this season, considering the football that they're playing, their manager. It's just not looking good. And that leaves the door open for the likes of a Manchester United to, potentially come in for him. We do have a lot of needs. Evening, everybody. Fred, make sure to drop a question for us. Mark getting the shout out there. Okay, yes. Mark, was it wifey this time, or was it the barbers?
Barbers, mate. I was going to ask you actually, Temi, is yours growing back again because you're covering it up?
Oh no! Look at this. I got a full head of hair. I just need a haircut. You know what I'm saying? I definitely need a haircut. What's going on, guys? I'm going to ask this question to the team. If Harry Kane becomes available, and it's abundantly obvious he wants to come to United, we obviously have a ton of needs in the side. Most of us, I'm pretty sure all three of us, my guests here agree we need a DM. They probably agree we need a right winger. But if Harry Kane is available and he wants to come to Manchester United, do we kind of ignore those things and just go get Harry Kane? Because it's an interesting topic. I saw Roy Keane talking about it on Sky Sports this weekend as well, saying United should do everything in their power to go get Kane. I'll start with Mark. What are your thoughts there on Harry Kane? If he becomes available and it's obvious that he wants to go to Manchester United, do we put our other plans on hold?
No. I don't think, first of all, he looks dejected. I think the whole team obviously lost at the weekend, but before that, his form is very, very good. Our striker department isn't one that we need to be looking at first. And there haven't really been talks about him being interested in United. I think he just wants to have Champions League football. So I can see him probably going abroad. And the thing is, there are many other strikers out there, maybe not as good, but could be as good, or Erling Haaland, that will be cheaper. There is absolutely no way that Daniel Levy is going to let him go for anything less than 120 million. And Man United just aren't going to pay that for a striker. So whilst I would absolutely love him at the club, I do think he'd fit the system brilliantly. It is absolutely categorically not going to happen.
Fair enough. I'm gonna pose it to James. I probably lean towards what Mark is saying. You know what I'm saying? There's so many needs. The striker department isn't. I would agree. Maybe we bet in Mason Greenwood next season and start playing him, giving him more league games at that number 9 position. But I think a lot of Manchester United fans would be on that other end of the spectrum and say, hey, a world-class player like Harry Kane, when that opportunity presents itself, i.e. a Van Persie, obviously completely different, stage we were, as a club, you know what I'm saying? But, some people might think, hey, we get this marquee signing like a Kane, guarantees us 25, 30 goals. We inch up on City much more. What are your thoughts on that?
I think I'm completely in agreement with you in that it's not an area we need to be desperately going for. I think we've got enough cover there if we can shift Mason Greenwood inside. But I think for that reason, Harry Kane's actually a better option than Erling Haaland. This summer they'd cost a very similar amount, I think, because Haaland's release clause isn't until next season. And I think Harry Kane, he's a Premier League cultured striker. He will be the perfect role model for Mason Greenwood to learn off. They speak the same language. They play the same position. Kane's the best striker in the world, in my opinion, anyway. And that helped Mason Greenwood's development. Kane's 28 now, I believe. So by the time he's losing his legs, Greenwood will be coming into his real peak years, and that's a seamless transition. I just think Kane makes so much more sense, especially because you don't have to deal with Raiola either. I've never even heard of Kane's agent. That's how nice and quiet he is, and that's, as a club, that's what we need at the minute, isn't it? We've had way too much drama surrounding agents. So I think if we have to go out and sign a striker, I would much rather have Harry Kane than Erling Haaland. I get Haaland will almost undoubtedly be better than Kane when he hits his prime, but there's so many risks involved, and I just think Harry Kane right now is what of the two is exactly what United need.
That's a fascinating point. I'll ask that question I'll go back to Mark and ask that question. But I'll go to Hama first. Everyone, drop your questions for us in the comments. Make sure to hit the like button for us. Put Q&A in front of your question. We're going to answer everything. There's no question that is off limits, as long as it's kind of tied to Manchester United or transfers. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to get in the comments real quick. Ugly Bear says, Harry Kane isn't what MUFC need. That's fascinating to me. Unless City decides to go on a mad one for one player, Spurs will price out Kane out of a move, especially when it comes to an English rival. That's a very, very fair point. I would be interested to see if Harry Kane kind of puts up a fuss. I don't think he's that type of guy, but you never know when a person's desperate and wants to win trophies. Hama, what do you think about this? Would you make Harry Kane a priority signing? I just can't see how he stays. I know there's opinions about that, but would you make him a priority this summer?
No, can y'all hear me?
Oh, you're good. My bad.
I have a few reasons why. So, also just to comment on what James said there at the end in terms of between Haaland and Kane. One of the other things besides what James said that I think is an issue with going for Haaland is I don't think he wouldn't stay here for a long time. I think eventually he'll want to go to a Real or whatever. So I think we'll only get a few years of him instead. I don't think he'll be a 10-year player for United, right? And then in terms of Kane this summer, I wouldn't get him because there's a lot more important things to deal with in the team. The balance from left to right in our attack and from back to front in our midfield is a lot more of a necessity than a number 9 right now. I do think eventually we do need to get a out-and-out, old-fashioned, just putting goals in the back of the net number 9. But if we sign Sancho and we sign a defensive midfielder, whoever your preference is, Rice and Didi, whoever other else you have on your mind, it's going to allow for more of a balance. And one of the things that I think people talk about on this channel a lot too is that defenses start to suffocate our left side because there's not much on the right side. And if we do that and actually balance the things and also fix the base of the team in terms of that defensive midfielder being able to solidify the midfield and also sit in front of the defense, that's going to do a lot more for the progress of this team than just getting a number 9. Because if we go in for Kane for the amount that he's going to cost, we're not going to be able to fill all the needs that we're going to have. And then let's say we don't get a right winger, then there's no point in getting Kane because it's going to be the same issue that everybody's talking about now, that there isn't enough stuff going into the number 9s. And then also, and Temi, I know some of you guys don't like when I talk about American football too, but Temi, you'll understand what I mean by this. It doesn't matter if you get all the stars. It doesn't matter if you get the best quarterback, best receiver, best running back, if you don't have a good O-line to let them do what they're doing. So in the same breath, to compare that to football, it doesn't matter if you get all the big name stars if you don't have good balance and a base to allow them to do what they need to do.
Oh, I completely agree with that. I would, I kind of agree with most of the team here in terms of, Kane being a priority. I agree with Mark. It's probably going to cost a ton of money to get him, especially Manchester United specifically. Like they're going to tax us. It's just how it works when you're a big club like us. But to that point, I'm going to ask Mark. I think I heard you say that you would prefer Haaland over Kane. James disagrees with you. Why? And just correct me if I'm wrong, but why would you go Haaland over Kane?
I wouldn't prefer Haaland over Kane. I wouldn't prefer either of them. I think there's other strikers out there that would be far cheaper and would have just as much impact. What I'm saying is, I still think actually even this summer we would get Haaland for less than Kane. I absolutely agree with what Hammer said. I don't think he's going to be a long-term project. We'll get him for 2 seasons, 3 seasons. A buyout will be put in and he will be off as well. I'd probably like to go for Andre Silva from Frankfurt. Lautaro Martinez from Inter. Obviously, he's not getting a look in. Very good striker. Lukaku obviously banging in the goals for them. So I think that, as I said, I think there are better options. I think you could get either one of those for probably 40, 50, maybe 60 million. So I wouldn't take either of them. I just felt that even this summer without his buyout, I still think he's going to be cheaper than Kane. You know what Levy is like. He is the best striker in the world, pretty much. Okay. He's also English tax. 120 actually. I was being probably a little bit kind. It will be a lot more than that.
Also, I don't know if it was sorry, real quick. I saw some of that. I don't know if it was correct what I saw, but basically, Levy said he is going to be a pain in the ass for anybody who wants to come in for Kane anyway. So
absolutely, yeah, he's done it with everybody. Gareth Bale, we offered them 120 million. He went for 82, and 40 million more, and he would not sell to us. There's absolutely no way he's coming to United.
Yeah. To that point of, Mark, you started bringing up strikers that, you think could do a good job at United. You mentioned Andre Silva. I'll go around the horn and ask the question. Guys, I'm going to make sure to get to your questions that were above this one. Don't worry. I see some fans in the comments. Let's actually, before we get to this question, let's just go around, read some comments. Oh, first of all, I love that Black Lightning shout out, man. That's great right there. Just like how Klopp and VVD was the last bit of the puzzle for them to win major trophies. A striker is the thing we.
I think he's saying the last thing we need right now.
Yeah. Striker is the last thing we need right now. Winger and a CDM is the priority. I would probably agree with that. Dortmund won 160 million for Haaland. Wonder how much for Kane. We have a Harry Kane type in our youth and Charlie McNeil and Joe Hugo. Give them 2 seasons to develop. Okay, so we'll go back to this question real quick, and maybe I'll start with James on this one. What are some underrated strikers you think would do a good job at Manchester United currently? So, maybe in another league, we have a lot of fans that watch pretty much only Premier League, you know what I'm saying? Don't really venture that much further out. What are you seeing? What do you think? What are some young strikers, maybe even experienced striker that you would look at to come into the club?
It's such a difficult question, isn't it? Because we need a player. Our style of play requires a striker that will link up play like Martial does. He does it very well when he's on his game. But we also need someone who's clinical like Cavani is in that sense. So, it's very difficult to pick out one player. I think maybe Belotti from Torino. I think if we're going just underrated strikers, I think he's pretty underrated. He's banging in goals for a team that's consistently playing, consistently sort of bottom half of the table, and he'll be available for like 20, 30 million, I think. I think he's good on the ball, and he's a good finisher as well. So it's sort of what we need. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what the others think. I'll have a think about it, and if the others are a bit stuck as well, then come back to me.
Hello.
My fault. That's my fault. I said, Hama, what striker are you thinking of? Maybe that.
Well, one that I'm always looking at is one of the one Mark's actually said, Martinez, who isn't getting a look in because Lukaku's on some other shit right now in Italy. Again, and I agree with the way that Mark put it, in the sense that I don't think we necessarily need that, Haaland, Kane. We need a number 9 who's going to do a number 9 and put goals in the back of the net. And you don't necessarily need the big name for that, right? So, yeah, Martinez and Inter. And, hey, it might be a good cheap option, too, considering he's not even getting playing time over there, so.
No, interesting point here. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, interesting. Andre Silva is a good shout. Interesting. Lautaro Martinez, like Hama and Mark said. Another interesting one for me, this guy's been injured all season, but the season prior, I thought he was a wonderful, wonderful player, and that's Raul Jimenez. Obviously, he went through a lot this season with that head injury, still working his way back into form. I think he's back in training again, and you can see how much Wolves miss him. Like, Wolves with him are Europa League contender. This season, they've been absolutely struggling without him. I think he's a wonderful player. Technically, he can hold up the ball. He's pretty clinical. He doesn't get too many chances in that Wolves side, but he scores a good amount of goals. I wouldn't risk it, obviously. We probably need to see him come back and play again, but that's somebody who I thought last season was so under the radar, and I would love to have him at the club when if he does get back to his best. Guys, let's see what's going on in the comments. Andre Silva is a goal machine. He definitely is. He definitely is. Really good player. Really, really good player. Nobody is looking at this tactically. Kane doesn't suit us because it will give Bruno even less space in a 4-2-3-1 formation. Haaland running in behind keeps defenses deep and will free up space for Bruno. I disagree. I disagree with that. I think that, one, Bruno, the way Kane plays currently, I would not be shocked if you see Bruno much higher up the pitch than, Kane often. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Kane will be the one who's dropping deeper.
If you look just at Martial, I know Martial hasn't been on form this season, but he is a hold-up man, and actually Bruno plays very well when Martial plays, and the other way around too. He might not be getting the goals, but that's exactly the type of player he is. So I can see what Carl's saying, but I do believe honestly Kane would fit into the side, and I think it would actually bring out even more from Bruno.
I completely agree. Let's get back into these questions. Fred Woodward with a really interesting one. Given Jesse Lingard's recent form, has that ship oh my God, I can't speak right now. Has that ship sailed, or should we risk bringing him back to the club? Also, if we decide to sell, how much should we demand for him? What a great question. What a great question. I'm gonna hold my tongue. I'm really interested to hear what the guys say about this one. Hama, I'll start with you on this one. What are your thoughts on this? And Jesse Lingard, what, 8 goals in 9 games or something ridiculous? I mean, what do you think about him and this question?
Yeah, I like the question, and also I've been hearing y'all and people on here and on other channels and Twitter and stuff talking about it. My thing is, no, don't. The ship has sailed. Don't risk bringing him back. All right, let the guy go and have a career. Let the guy go and get playing time, play well, work his way back into the England squad. He's not going to get as much playing time or as many opportunities here with Bruno and other people in line before him, right? And then so that's my part, is let him go, and then in terms of selling him, I would sell him. I don't know what price. If he continues on this form and gets more goals and things like that, then you could maybe go to like 30, 40. But in terms of selling him, what I would actually do in terms of making stuff easier for our board and buying people and things like that, we should try to use him as a deal to get Rice if we want to go and fix that area.
No, yeah, that's a very fair point. I'm gonna hold my tongue. I'm not gonna say anything yet. Mark, I'll go to you. What are your thoughts on this?
There's Hammers. I can't really add anything to it. He's not going to stay. That's no disrespect to Lingard. I watched an interview many months ago, not to do with Lingard, but the way that Ollie approaches and decides about who's going to be going, and it very much hit the bill with Lingard, and I think he gave him enough chances and wasn't quite able to fit the bill at the time. And I know he was going through some very difficult times, and obviously that is going to affect him, but there's absolutely no way that he will be staying. And if anything, this plays into our hands perfectly. He's now playing wonderfully under a manager who we also play quite well under, around players that are kind of, he kind of bounces off, and this plays into our hands because we could use it as a make weight. I am absolutely sure that we will use it as a make weight for Declan Rice. He's not going to stay. He will be going, and hopefully he'll be used as a bargaining chip.
No, yeah, that's a fair point. I still wonder. I think everyone likes the idea of the swap deal. I just wonder if we pull it off. I really wonder if we pull something like that off. James, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's such a good opportunity for United because we're so bad at selling players for what they're worth, and I think we might be able to sell Jesse Lingard for more than he's worth because he's not got long left on his contract, and there'd be no point bringing him back. He's a player that thrives on playing constantly and having a lot of confidence within his game, and he's not going to get that at United. You're not going to displace Bruno to fit Jesse Lingard in the team, are you? So he wouldn't get regular game time, and he wouldn't play as well as a result of that. So if he's got a value at the minute, he's gone from talking about letting him leave on a free when his contract runs out to now we could maybe get 30 million for a 28-year-old who isn't part of our first team. I think it'd be so stupid not to sell him while his stock's still so high. I think the worst thing that could happen for us now is he gets some sort of injury and he's out for the rest of the season, because right now we've got the golden ticket to get back on with some savvy business and raise some funds for the summer that we really shouldn't have had at the start of the season. I think it was a good idea loaning him out, and it's worked better than anyone could have ever imagined.
Fair point there, James. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with the consensus here. I would definitely sell him. There's so much revisionist history when it comes to Jesse. Like, because he's playing so well right now, everyone's like, "Oh my God, why couldn't we keep a player like that? We have a need out the right wing, blah blah blah. He would have done this." I'm like, no. Like, he was never going to produce this form for us, and if he comes back, there's almost no chance he reproduces this form for us. It's just a fact. And that's a good thing. Like James, like the whole team has mentioned here, the fact that we have the potential to sell this player for 25 to 30 million pounds, to me, is arguably some of the best business we've done in years, if we actually get it done, obviously. So yeah, no, Jesse Lingard, great player. I think 25 to 30 million would be pretty accurate. Go ahead.
Can you pull up the Kyle Lewis comment?
Yeah. I'd keep Lingard if Pogba goes.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping we keep Pogba because nobody's going to be able to afford for whatever we're going to ask. But also, I'm hoping, and I know people think Ole likes the 2-1 midfield. I'm hoping if we get a Ricer and Ndidi or somebody, that we would go to one sitting and put two people in front of them. So even then, if Lingard stays, it'll be Bruno and Pogba or Bruno and Donny before Lingard gets a chance to play.
Mm-hmm.
And McTominay and Fred as well.
Yes.
There's a very interesting question here that I might save to the end. Name your ultimate 6-a-side MUFC team from any era. I'm going to let the guys think on that one, because that's not an easy one to just roll off the tongue. But
I know mine already.
Keep that in the back of your head. And then we'll answer it at the end of the show. Great question, Ugly Bear. Black Lightning says, which position do you believe United will fill first in the summer? This is a great question, because it's not necessarily what the need is. What do we think, our leadership will do? So I guess John Murto and, Darren Fletcher, Ed Woodward and team, what do you think in their minds are actually going to go and chase? Because a lot of the times what we think we thought we needed a DM this summer. It didn't happen. We thought we needed, a right winger to come into the first team right now. Obviously we signed Palestri, we signed Diallo, but those are future plays. We didn't get the right winger we needed in the moment, if that makes sense. So what do you think? I'll start with Mark here. What do you think, our leader, or, our front office will do this summer to start?
I think it will be a defensive midfielder still. I think Ollie knows that. The only reason why he plays two holding midfielders is because he doesn't have wholehearted trust in his defence, and consequently that stagnates our attacking options. Whilst I think Sancho is probably a done deal, if they've only got a 70 million transfer bucket, okay, plus they're going to have to make a few sales, I'm still not convinced that Sancho is going to arrive this summer. So I honestly think a CDM. I really do.
Fair enough. Hama, do you agree with that? You're on mute, bro.
Yeah, my bad. Well, I hope we don't have a 70 million freaking budget, because that would just be ridiculous. I was going to go with Sancho mainly because if it is true that they have, 3/4 of the deal done, I'm expecting it to be a lot lower than whatever Dortmund was asking last season. So we should be able to be like, okay, take the fucking money and give us Sancho. But if that changed my way of thinking too, if you really think we're only going to have something like 70 million, then yeah, that's going to make it a lot more complicated on which
that's what's been
first.
reported. That's what's been reported.
Yeah, no, Ollie's made it very clear in a few press conferences that it's not going to be a big spending summer. He's kind of said that, kind of prepared us for the worst, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean? So, James, what are your thoughts on this question?
I think whether we like it or not, I feel like the rumors are way too frequent to not believe that we might get a striker this summer, because I think Cavani leaving would just send the backroom staff into absolute meltdown. So I think, unfortunately, it's not what we need, but I feel like that's what we'll go for, if not a centre back, because every single day there's an update on how much scouting we've done on Pau Torres, or how much Varane's going to cost, or how much United don't like Koundé's release clause, or something like that. So it'll either be a centre back or a striker, I feel, but I don't think it should be that. But I just feel that's the way we're leaning at the minute.
I think you're probably right, James, actually.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely don't think a DM is going to be the first signing we make. Genuinely don't believe that. Specifically to your point, James, if Cavani leaves, I think it's definitely a striker. If he does stay, I think Sancho's the next thing for the club. Obviously, it's the reports have been growing. And there's the price for Sancho has dropped significantly, and I think United want to go back and not even just United. I think Ollie, he wanted Sancho badly last summer, couldn't get him obviously. So I think they'd go back for that. The DM position, I believe it will be addressed this summer. I truly want to believe that, but I'm not 100%. I'll be honest with you. I'm not 100% certain that we get a midfielder this summer if we get Sancho and a striker. And a center back. I'm not 100% sure that, a DM would be in play. Maybe they think McTominay grows this summer. Maybe Fred has another year in the league. He's improved. This is the thought process.
We don't have a CDM though, mate. Ollie knows this. He knows this. And I said to you a few weeks ago, as soon as Ander Herrera left, he has not had any stability. So I think, it might be a different story for what the Glazers want to do, but I think Ollie knows he needs to get a defensive midfielder in, because Fred won't do that.
I think we had this debate once, Mark. I think I fundamentally disagree on, even if we did get that DM, I still think he plays with those two, the 4-2-3-1. That's just me. That's just me personally. But we can agree to disagree, and we'll have to see in 7 months. You know what I'm saying? That's the beauty of this thing, man. We can all have these different opinions. Let me see if I missed the question up top. Everyone, make sure to put Q&A in front of your question. Hit the like button for us. Hit that subscribe button. You know what I'm saying, and continue to support the guys here. Let me see. If David De Gea leaves, does bringing in a decent backup to Dean Henderson become a priority? Interesting question. Really interesting question, because I imagine Romero won't be. Here next season. I could be wrong about that. I didn't think about that, honestly. Interesting question. I'll start with James. What do you think about this one?
Hang on, sorry, I was muted. There's no chance of us convincing Romero to stay, is there, given how we treated him? But I still don't think he'd be a bad option. I don't know why we froze him out in that sense. Obviously, there wasn't really a place for him, but I think we could have treated him a bit better and just kept him on board. But there's talk of Sam Johnson being brought in if they go down. And I feel like if we brought him in, we'd again have probably the best second keeper in the world, because he's playing for a poor team, but he's such a phenomenal keeper, especially this season. But yeah, it's not. I don't think it should be a priority, but it's definitely going to be important, because one injury and we're playing Nathan Bishop in every single game, and that's not really going to be too great, is it? Yeah,
no, that's a fair point. I'll be honest, I haven't heard the reports of Sam Johnston. Good keeper. I don't know if I would. He has been good this season. Again, I have my reservations, but as a number 2, definitely I would have no problems with that at all. Mark, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I totally agree with James. I think they will get Sam Johnson, and I don't think it's going to be big money on a goalkeeper, and he'd be a wonderful number 2. He's very, very good. So I think, yeah, James spot on there. I think that's what probably will happen.
Hama, do you agree with our other two guests here?
Kind of, but I was listening to Neil and Doc and Ben earlier, and one of the points that they brought up too is that did Johnson just get into the English side?
Yep.
So I actually one of their points was a relevant point, is that he might not want to go back and be a number 2 if he wants to try to stay playing for England as well.
Interesting.
So that's the only thing I'd say about that.
That's fair. That's fair. I think we definitely. I didn't even think about this whole goalkeeper situation. That's another, that's more money we have to spend in the transfer market. I'm so we'll never know this question, but I'm so curious to know how much money has been allocated, or like what is the net spend Ollie can have. I truly don't know, and I hope we don't get disappointed again this summer. Ben Foster is our best option. Interesting one. Interesting shout there. Former United keeper too. We want to get Rice so that Pogba and Bruno can play in a 4-3-3. So so some of us think. But Pogba probably going with FFP being put on break and he has 1 year left. Is a CDM more important than a Pogba replacement? Interesting. I'll start with this one. I'd say yes. I think Pogba's going to stay. I just personally have that feeling. I can't see a world in which Real Madrid or Barcelona shell out $100+ million for Paul Pogba. I can't see it. I have a follow-up question about Paul Pogba in general. We'll talk about that right after this. But no, I think a CDM would be definitely more of a priority. If Mark is correct, and in his belief of Ollie playing that 4-3-3, we have the ability to drop Bruno in there and play McTominay with a DM, or Van de Beek and Bruno, whatever the the 2-8 you want up there. I think he'd still get that DM no matter what. I'll go with Mark. What are your thoughts on this?
On Pogba?
Yep.
I don't think he's going to leave either. I think you're absolutely right, Timmy. I don't think. Well, the only way that Pogba's going to leave, really, I think this season, which is going to make it a huge risk for us losing him for free, is possibly a trade. I don't think PSG might go for him. That would be the only team. Maybe a trade with Juve, but I don't think Real Madrid or Barcelona would go for him, no. I think that the only replacements for Pogba really are Milinkovic-Savic from Lazio and Saul Niguez from Atletico. I think they're the only two like for like. But I think that a defensive midfielder is the priority still.
Yeah, no, fair point. James, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think providing Pogba goes, which would be pretty devastating, I don't think you can really replace some of the things that he gives you. But a defensive midfielder will probably allow Donny van de Beek to come back into the team. And I still feel like that was the plan of signing him, assuming that Pogba was going at the end of the season and then getting him in early so that you can bed him into United and he can kickstart when Pogba goes. But, that'll all depend. I think you can't play Donny in this team unless you've got a world-class defensive midfielder next to him, because, if you play him next to Fredo or McTominay, he's got way too much defensive work to do to cover one of those two. So a world-class defensive midfielder does both of their jobs for them and allows Van de Beek to just do what he does best.
Can't disagree with that. Hama, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, James kind of took my main point, is that if we do get that world-class defensive midfielder, Donny's already the replacement, so there's not really somebody we got to bring in. I think a defensive midfield is definitely more important than a Pogba replacement. And again, I don't see him leaving, like I said before.
All fair points. Mark, you had something to say?
Just Donny won't replace Pogba, but what will happen is the system will change in order to accommodate Van de Beek, and you'd be able to play Van de Beek and Bruno together.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. I just think that's my personal feeling anyway. And I think you'll see a very, we've said this before, Pogba, ball carrier, sprays the passes. Donny is a movement guy that will bring players out of play and bring himself into positions to pick up that ball, but he'll get rid of that ball straight away. Yeah. So I think that if you get that DM, then that's what you'll see. And Bruno will be that ball carrier number 10.
Interesting. Let's get into the comments really quickly. Everyone make sure to hit the like button for us. We all know the Glazers will screw us over as long as we qualify for the CL. Dividends are more important to them. I really believe Sancho is the missing puzzle. And after watching Dean Henderson on Sunday, I think he is our missing piece in defense. We probably will just get a backup center back. Interesting. We will bring back Garner and Levitt and promote through the squad. We will buy a cheap striker and one big signing, either Sancho or Grealish. Interesting takes there. Fred says a backup right back is needed also. The burden on AWB is too high at the moment. I completely agree with that. He definitely needs some competition. I was looking at PSG's Dagba. I like him. He'd be a great backup right back. I would take him all day, every day. Solskjaer will sign fellow Norwegian Sanderberg from Sheffield United when they get promoted. He will be our CDM next season, and I'm happy about that. He's a super talent. Interesting take there. If MUFC want to raise funds by selling either De Gea or Henderson, then the logical choice, I think, would be to sell Dean Henderson, who could possibly sell for 70 million. Interesting take there. Interesting take. I want to ask, we were talking about Paul Pogba. I want to follow up. Everyone, make sure to drop your questions. Drop Q&A in the front. We'll answer a couple more questions, and then we'll finish up here. Paul Pogba played on the left wing again this past weekend, and he was arguably the best player on the pitch. I personally like him a lot playing in that left hand, on that left hand side. I think it gives him more freedom offensively. He's in a position in space he likes. Pogba has talked in the past of, at his time at Juventus where, he played in a diamond, but it was on the left, and he was kind of occupying the same spaces that he's been occupying for us. Would you want to see Paul Pogba be played at left wing more? And obviously that's Marcus Rashford's position. But I think Pogba, he looks equally as electric, if not better, in that position. Mark, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on left wing?
I do agree that he tends to be more of a flair player at the top on the left, but he wasn't good in that position against Spurs this weekend. It was only when it was changed and he was brought back into the middle that United actually played much, much better, and he was the catalyst. They have the option of putting him there, but I don't think he's ever going to take Rashford's spot. Absolutely not. He is that flair player. You're absolutely right. When he was at Juventus, everyone wants to talk about Pogba being that flair player, and that's where he played in order to achieve that. Now, the reason why you don't see that so often is because he's played further back, but it was only after that change that Ollie made and moved him back into the centre that then we were very, very good.
Hama, what are your thoughts on that?
I think, he plays decent, but I don't think I really want to see him getting pushed out there that's where we want to see him play now. If you're talking about more so in this season, maybe we can do some type of formation which allows him to have more freedom on the left. But no, when he's in the middle, he can do what he can do in the middle and still have some. And again, it comes down to the formation. And one of the things that we keep talking about here is that if we can push it to him and Bruno next to each other, that's just going to be ridiculous in the middle of anybody's midfield. I don't care who you got to try to defend them.
100%. Can't disagree with that. James, what are your thoughts?
Well, I sort of disagree with Mark in the sense that I think in the second half, I think he was still deployed in the left, on the left-hand channel, but I think he was given a different sort of game plan. I think he was told to be way too regimented in the first half, and there was too much defensive burden on him. Whereas in the second half, they gave him sort of a free role, like Jack Grealish has in the Villa side, where most of his play was down the left, but he could really do what he wants, and that sort of showed, didn't it? Because he just came into his own. He was all over the pitch, and he cutting in from that left hand side. He's got a lot more space out there as well, which is good for him. He can, he could pick out an individual blade of grass if he wanted to with his passing range. So yeah, I think there's definitely potential for him to be that sort of left winger if we give him that free role. And it does mean we'd have to abandon this counter-attacking style of play though, because him and Cavani up front on Sunday just completely got rid of any potential to counter, which, you know, it wasn't a bad thing at all. We actually dominated Spurs, which was really nice to see. But yeah, with the counter being so effective for us, it's definitely a risk, I think.
No, yeah, I agree. I agree with James on this one. I'll be honest. I think that, yes, Pogba did occupy more central areas like Mark was talking about. But even if you look at, his brilliant piece of skill to get the ball to Greenwood, he was still kind of operating in that left-hand channel, drove through the middle, beat two players, lays it off to Greenwood, goal. You know what I'm saying? I think that when he's playing, especially in the Premier League, when he's playing centrally, a lot of people say he's, the biggest criticism of he's inconsistent. And I think that's because he has in the back of his mind, he's always thinking he has the burden of creating from deep, but then he also has the burden of, having defensive responsibilities that he normally, doesn't have. So I think him playing on the left should be utilized more. I think against AC Milan, he got us out of jail in that tie by coming in off the left and just being an absolute menace. Marcus has been hurt for so long. I think it would be a good time to, give him a bit of a rest, let Pogba play in that free role and, see what he does for the rest of the season. I think it's an interesting thing. Let's get in the comments really quickly. Pogba is at his best on the left. Even when he played in a 4-3-3 midfield, his heat map glowed on the left attacking side. I agree with that. I think Paul Pogba will just get better and better. Pogba on the left wing balances the team because he stops us from a one-dimensional team with his diagonals towards the right back and right winger. We usually just go left. Also takes the creative burden off of Bruno. 100% agree with that. Let me see if I missed something else here. The best summer signing MUFC can make this summer is getting Paul Pogba to sign a new deal. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Joe has a comment here. Comment here really quickly. James, you want to mention something real quick?
Yeah, if it's all right. I thought another good bit of having Pogba out on that left wing as well is he's got that much ability that Aurier was never going to deal with him one-on-one. So it dragged another player away from that midfield, which is probably one of the reasons why we dominated the game so much, because it was either Højbjerg or Ndombele most of the time coming over to help Aurier out. And we saw with that third goal that even two of them couldn't stop him. So I think that's also a real asset to have in attack, because it's worth noting as well, it takes a man off of Bruno as well, because he's always the one that's getting doubled up on. So whether they double up on Bruno or Pogba, the other one's almost guaranteed to have a good game because they're being allowed the space that they so need.
100%. I think Bruno had one of his better games. Definitely think Bruno had one of his better games this past, even though he didn't contribute with a goal. I think his overall play was wonderful because he had more space, he had more time, he had more, the ability to think. I think his passing percentage was much better than it normally is. So yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you, James. Mark, what are your thoughts?
It was good to see us not being so reliant on Bruno. It was more of a team effort, wasn't it? Just to be clear, I actually have said many times that I do believe Pogba's best position is at the front left. I just think that at the weekend it was a little bit stagnated until he was moved further back. He did run those left-hand channels, but when he was sitting in the middle, he was able to spread it around a little bit more. And some of his best football after Mino came out and said what he said was when he was integrated into the team again. He was playing at that top left-hand side. And when we played against Liverpool at Anfield, he wasn't very good because he was played on the right-hand side. And when they switched it, he was much better. So I don't disagree at all. I just think against Spurs, it wasn't as effective that weekend until it changed.
That's completely fair. Cannot disagree with that. Q&A, what player did we sign who you thought would be a flop but turned out to be top class? Ibra for me. Saw him at the Euros against Ireland's Kieran Clark, marked him out of the game, so I wasn't optimistic. You are absolutely hilarious for that, Joe, if that's the reason you thought Ibra would be a flop. Hilarious. I'll start with Mark on this one. Maybe give it a second to think about it, but what are your thoughts? Maybe a player that, overachieved in a sense.
Well, I think there'd be a lot during the Ferguson era, but I think there's only been maybe a couple, if just maybe one or two since Fergie. And I can't disagree with Zlatan, but I think Bruno Fernandes. I don't think anybody expected him to hit the heights and come in and do what he's done. Absolutely not. But Zlatan's a very good shout. I didn't expect that from him either. I'm not saying I didn't expect it from Bruno, but I don't think anybody could say that he was going to come in and do what he's done. No chance.
That's fair. James, I'll go with you. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I was going to say Bruno as well, just because everything was set up for him to fail here, wasn't it? You know, he signed for us in the prime of his career. You know, he was like 25 when he signed. He's coming from the Portuguese league, which you can. There's quite a few players who have absolutely ripped up the Portuguese league and failed everywhere else. And you know, to sign a player for 50 million, even though you know that's seemingly nothing nowadays, it's still a very big fee. And we have a very bad reputation of ruining players' career who look very promising. So I genuinely expected us to just ruin Bruno Fernandez's career and then ship him off to, you know, a Europa League team in a couple of years' time when it didn't work out. So it's very, very nice to see him actually doing well.
Hama, what are your thoughts on this one?
In terms of recent history, I really couldn't think of one, so I'm just gonna steal both of theirs and say Bruno. Not in the sense that I didn't think he was gonna be bad. I mean, the shit that he's been doing is ridiculous at the levels, and then just being able to do it right. Even when he has a crappy game, he can still get a goal for you.
Yeah, interesting one. Park Ji-sung. That's a great one there. I don't think anybody could have envisioned Park Ji-sung having the career he did. John Cromartie says Antonio Valencia. Yeah, super underrated Valencia is, man, because obviously people think of him as the Ronaldo replacement. And it's just, you know, even take that out of, he was an excellent servant for the club. Michael Carrick, 100%. Yes, he was a very underrated player. Just a fun one for me is obviously this player is kind of a lesser player, but Javier Hernandez, the goals he scored and like the player he was, he wasn't a great player. Like, he wasn't a great player, but he always managed to score some big goals for us, especially against Chelsea. It's just like he loved playing against Chelsea. And if you're a USA fan, you know, Javier Hernandez is someone you've watched a lot in the Mexican jersey, and he's been ruthless against us.
And fucking piss us off. That's what he does.
Yeah, he was absolutely ruthless against us. So yeah, no, it's and that would be my shout right there. Valencia's a great shot, Ronaldo replacement. I feel so bad when people, you know, put that on Antonio Valencia. Like there's no such thing as a Ronaldo replacement. You're never going to replace a player like that. It's like saying a Messi replacement. Like Barcelona's never replacing that. It's just it's too hard. Dennis Irvin is the most underrated player. Yeah, I mean, do people underrate Dennis Irvin? I think people, you know, I think he gets his. I mean, if you know who he is, I think he gets his just desserts. You know what I'm saying? One of the best fullbacks you'll ever see. Like I wonder who's underrating him. I'm curious. I want to go back to the six-a-side question, and since Mark said he knows his, I'm going to start with him. Right out of the gate. Let me see if I can find the question again for those who missed it. Where is this question? I think was it Ugly Bear who asked it?
Yeah,
I think it was. Yeah.
Why am I missing this question? It's somewhere here. Oh, here we go. Q&A. Name your ultimate six-a-side MUFC team from any era. Fans, drop your questions. Drop your six-a-side team in the comments. You feel me? And you know, let's get right to it. Mark, who would yours be?
Van der Sar went 14 games without conceding. Still a record, I think. Amazing. Peter Schmeichel was a quality keeper as well, but Van der Sar for me. Rio and Vidic. There are better defenders in this past United teams than those two, but together they were absolutely colossal. So I couldn't add one without the other. I would have Ronaldo, obvious reasons. You could choose George Best, and I know Neil will have a massive go at me, but I didn't see him play, so I'm not going to say him. But Paul Scholes, every day, he is an unbelievably world-class player. And then up top, Van Nistelrooy.
Wow. That's a great six-a-side team. I'll go to James now. What would yours be?
I'm gonna base it off what you actually need to succeed in an actual six-a-side game, rather than just the six best players that have ever played for United, because you need players who've got decent fitness, they're very agile, and they're very good ball players. So I'll go with De Gea in goal, because I feel like he's a lot better at getting down low and saving with his feet and stuff like that, which you need in the smaller goals. And then at the back, I'm going to go Dennis Irwin, because you need goals from your defenders as well. You need people who can hit them from range, and there wasn't many people better than Dennis Irwin. And then I'll take a gamble. I'll only play one at the back. I'll go two in midfield that would probably be Paul Scholes and Paul Pogba. I feel like on a five-a-side pitch, playing six-a-side, they'd be phenomenal. And then I'd actually go Juan Mata next, because I feel five-a-side, he'd be untouchable with his agility and his movement of the ball and everything. And then you can't really look past Ronaldo as the other player, can you? So it'd probably be those six.
Wow. That's a pretty damn good team. I can't lie. That's a pretty damn good team you put out there, James. Hama, what would you go for?
So mine ended up unfortunately being a mix of theirs. I was going to go De Gea because of what James said in terms of getting down low, and then I was going to go actually Vidic in terms of the sole defender, because he's a psychopath and I love defenders like that. And then the midfield, I was going to go – actually, okay, so I was going to go Rude up top. And then my midfield, I was going to go Paul – who was I going to go? Paul Keane.
Scholes.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I was thinking Kane, because I would want somebody else just to dominate some people in the midfield. And then Ronaldo, of course. Scholes would have been another option.
Yeah, no, that's a great shout. That's a great shout. I think I'd go for Van der Sar goal. Just simply because he has better feet in terms of not saving, but just playing football. I think he was a much better distributor of the football than De Gea was. So I would go with Van der Sar there. And then as my soul center, I would go Rio personally, as my defender. I think he had excellent feet. Most people know that, obviously, and then he has the pace and power to recover. In that small enclosed space. Paul Scholes, probably my favorite footballer ever. He has to be in here. There's no better midfielder that's ever touched earth. I say this often. I think Paul Scholes is literally the best midfielder that has ever touched earth. Xavi said it, not me. So you tell me that. Xavi definitely said that. So it's not just my opinion. You know what I'm saying? And then I would probably, as his partner, this one's a tough one. I would go with Roy Keane. And I'm saying that because, obviously, like you mentioned, James, Paul Pogba in a five-a-side is wonderful. But there's something about, I think Paul Pogba, for me, his greatest weakness is for someone who is so gifted on the ball. I feel like Roy Keane felt like he had more time on the ball, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but Paul sometimes loses, balls very cheaply. You're never seeing Roy Keane doing that. And then to add it off, he has the aggression to get about a very small, you have to defend him five-a-side too. So I think Roy Keane would be huge there. And then, who else am I missing? I'd have to go Van Nistelrooy and Rooney. Is that six right there? I think that was my six. I might have thrown another one in there. No, I take it back. I take it back. I would go Ronaldo and Rooney. That would be my two.
Check out Kyle's. I like the Berbatov show.
Yeah, no, let's see what some of your six-a-sides were. Stuart says Schmeich, Scholes, Giggs, Rude, Rio, Ronnie. Not bad at all. Schmeichel, Rio, Scholes, Ronaldo, Rooney, best. Wow. VDS, Rio, Pogba, Scholes, Nani, Berbatov. Yeah, Dimitar Berbatov. Oh my goodness. That man's first touch was absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. He was a lazy piece. You could be lazy as hell. People think Pogba's lazy. Berbatov, oh my God, was way worse. But he was just a wonderful footballer. Daniel Ronaldo, really. I mean, it's all in good fun. All in good fun. David De Gea, AWB, Paul Pogba, Bruno, CR7, and Rashi. Oh, Rashi in a 5-a-side. Oh, I think he'd get killed. I think he would get absolutely killed. If we could sign 2 players from the bottom half, who would it be? This is a great question. This is an absolutely amazing question. I will. So actually, before we get, I'll list out the bottom half teams so that just to make sure we all know what those teams are really quick. Let's do that really quickly. So the bottom half, Aston Villa is in the bottom half of the table. So think about that really quickly. Wolves, Crystal Palace, Southampton, Brighton, Burnley, Newcastle, Fulham, West Brom, Sheffield United. Damn, when did Aston Villa drop that? When did that happen? That's unbelievable. I'll start with Hama. Who would your 2 be? Oh, you're on mute, bro.
One would actually be I'd take the risk on. Damn, I can't believe I forgot the guy's name again. That's why I didn't bring him up earlier. The guy who got hurt. What's his name again?
Oh, Jimenez?
Yeah. I'd take a risk on him, even though I know we would have to see how he's going to come back after that type of injury. And then of course it would be Grealish from Aston Villa.
Can't disagree with that. Mark, what would you do?
I completely agree with Fred, Grealish, and Basuma.
Okay, so let's see what the comments are saying real quick. Grealish in that race, Basuma's up there too. Danny Ings and Mateus Pereira's West Brom, 2 ballers in my opinion. Okay, Ollie Watkins and Basuma, fair play. I'll go with James. What are your thoughts?
I was gonna say Grealish and Basuma, but that'd be a little bit boring now. So I'll swap out Basuma for Ruben Neves because Grealish, you can't pass up Grealish, can you? So Ruben Neves because he's sort of a defensive midfielder, isn't he?
Yeah, that's all fair shouts. Yeah, no, I'm gonna just throw out some. These aren't my top 2, but just throw out some names from those bottom tier teams. You know what I'm saying? I think Jarvis. One of the our guys in the comments said Sander Berg. I like Sander Berg. There's a guy at West Brom that no one ever talks about, but every time I watch him, I'm like, I love this guy. And that's his last name is Yakuzlu, Turkish CDM. I think he's such a the second time we played against West Brom in that draw, I thought he was wonderful. And I've been watching him ever since. I watched him during the international break for Turkey. I can't remember who Turkey upset in their first game in qualifiers. They upset somebody. And I thought Yakuzlu was excellent again. That's just I don't know if anyone knows who that is or whatever, but major fan. Another guy from West Brom I like, but he's a Chelsea player, and that's Conor Gallagher. I think he's the first game we played against West Brom, I thought he was the best player on the pitch. So, yeah, no, interesting. But no, if I had to pick 2 for real, it would have to be Jack Grealish, and I would probably go with Ruben Neves because he's a wonderful player. He can score goals. He's good defensively. He's keeps it simple with his passing. Really good player. Honorable mention: Saint Maximin, Ward-Prowse, Rafinha. Yeah, there's a lot of talent in these smaller, not small. I don't want to say smaller clubs, but in these teams in the bottom half, there's a lot of talent. Fergie used to just nab all the best players from all the teams in the Premier League. Maybe we should start thinking about doing that again. Ruben Neves and Ademola Lookman. Fair shouts. Anderson and Neves. Anderson from what is that? Fulham? I think it's Fulham, right? Wilfred Zaha, another great shout, but he's like a mini Harry Kane. They've just priced him out of ever leaving Crystal Palace. Raul Neto, Grealish and Cresswell. Cresswell is in the top 4, I'm pretty sure. Who's CB? Ed Woodward. But yeah, no, these are great.
He was saying Fulham CB.
Oh, Fulham center. Which one? I think they played 3 at the back.
No, I think he was saying who you were trying to figure out. Yeah.
What about Ben White?
Ben White's another guy.
From Brighton. He's a good player.
I need to see it more. I need to see it a little more. There's something about Ben White that screams to me. There's a bit of overhyping. I've seen him. He's a good player, but I do think there's better center backs, and they probably make him a very, very expensive get. Joachim Anderson. I don't know why his name eluded me. Neto is a possibility with Raul Jimenez. Fred says, cheers, Hama. I think that's – if I missed – I hope I didn't miss any questions, but if I did, forgive me. I don't think I missed any questions, though. Let me see. Honorable mention, Bamford. Guys, Bamford is Bamford in the – oh, no, he's teetering on the line of the bottom half. But no, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Guys. We appreciate it. What a great show. An hour flew by as normal. So much fun to talk with my bros Mark, my bro James, my bro Helma. You know what I'm saying? Always good times. Everyone, make sure to hit the like button first before you go. Thank you so much for all the fans dropping, great questions for us. What an amazing show. Again, as always, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. You know what I'm saying? And I will talk to y'all all very, very shortly. Deuces.